Alright, let's talk about adverb clauses. Adverb clauses are a type of dependent clause in English, and they come in these different flavors: time, cause and effect, contrast, direct contrast, and condition. First, we're going to talk about adverb clauses of time. After Batman captured the Joker, he went skiing with Robin. So in a sentence like this, you have an adverb clause of time. After is a subordinating conjunction. Adverb clauses usually start with a subordinating conjunction, like after. Subordinating conjunctions are not exactly like coordinating conjunctions. They only work to start adverb clauses. Of course, some subordinating conjunctions have separate meanings. Sometimes they get used as other parts of speech and aren't conjunctions at all. In this case, after Batman captured the Joker forms the adverb clause. It tells us when this action happens. It happens after Batman captured the Joker. So first, Batman captures the Joker, and then he goes skiing with Robin. If I change the order of the sentences and say, Batman went skiing with Robin after he captured the Joker, what do you think happens? Well, we change the order of the events. He goes skiing and then he captures the Joker. So the order of the clauses doesn't itself matter, but where we put after does. Because I can say, Batman went skiing with Robin after he captured the Joker. And it has the same meaning as after Batman captured the Joker, he went skiing with Robin. We have to leave before the monster comes. Before is another subordinate conjunction just like after. We have to leave before the monster comes means that there's a monster coming, a monster that is going to do something bad to us. Now, if this monster comes, something bad will happen, so we better get out of here. When I get to Hollywood, I'm going to be a famous actor. Now, you should have noticed that at the end of an adverb clause, we put a comma. But we don't put one at the beginning of an adverb clause. So if the adverb clause comes after the main clause, the independent clause of the sentence, then we don't need the comma at all. In this sentence, when I get to Hollywood, the clauses happen at about the same time, but we have to get to Hollywood first before we become a famous actor. While I was doing my homework, she was being taken by aliens. When we use while, we see two actions really happening at the same time. And we're using progressive verbs because those help us make the sentences, the clauses, happen at the same time. So, doing my homework happens at the same time that being taken by aliens happens. As I was doing my homework, she was being taken by aliens. As has a very similar meaning to while, and there's no difference between these sentences. By the time Spider-Man gets here, Doc Ock will have gotten the plutonium. Now, you should know who Spider-Man is. Doc Ock, or Dr. Octopus, is one of Spider-Man's arch nemeses. Okay, and plutonium is a radioactive element that can be used in explosives, like nuclear bombs. It's very dangerous. And of course, the villain, like Doc Ock, could do some bad stuff with it. So what does by the time mean? By the time is another subordinate conjunction, like after or before, and it's several words. It has the form of a prepositional phrase, but it works just like a subordinating conjunction. And here it has the meaning where Spider-Man is going to get here after Doc Ock gets the plutonium. So in other words, the image on the left won't happen because Doc Ock will get the plutonium and get away before Spider-Man arrives, if the sentence is true. Robin has been fighting crime since he was a child. So Robin is Batman's sidekick. Batman adopted Robin, Dick Grayson being his real name, when he was a child after his parents die. And then Batman trains Robin to become a crime fighter, and the rest is comic book history. Since has a meaning like after. We tend to use perfect verbs like has been fighting. Here it's the present perfect progressive. We use perfect verbs like this with since to show that one thing happened and then this has been happening this whole time in this case, or some other use of the perfect tenses where we have an action that happens before another action. We're going to dance until it's midnight. Until is another time subordinator. And here it means that we're going to dance and keep dancing, and when it's midnight, we will stop. As soon as the pizza gets here, we can eat. As soon as is another one of those phrasal subordinating conjunctions. It means it has more than one word. And this means that we can't eat now because the pizza's not here. But once it gets here, we can eat. And once is another subordinating conjunction. It means that, well, it means the same thing as soon as. When this happens, this other thing happens. It's very similar to when. This is Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is one of Batman's arch nemeses. So the first time I went to Gotham City, Mr. Freeze captured the mayor. Gotham City is where Batman lives. And a mayor is the leader of a city, like the president of a country. Here is the mayor of a city. And to capture is to take. So the first time means that I have not been to Gotham City before this happened. I went to Gotham City for the first time. And that time that I was in Gotham City, Mr. Freeze captured the mayor. This is the Penguin, another enemy of Batman. So the last time I went to Gotham City, the Penguin robbed a bank. The last time means that I have not been there since this time. I might have been there before this. In fact, saying the last time suggests that I had been there before this, but I have not been there since. So the last time I went to Gotham City, the Penguin robbed a bank. So the next time I go to Gotham City, I'm staying in my room the entire time. The next time means that if I go there again, that time I am going to stay in my room the entire time because it's so dangerous in Gotham City. This is a luchador, a Mexican wrestler. As long as I've been a luchador, I've never lost a match. A match is like a game in wrestling. So long as you live, never let someone take off your mask. It's very important for luchadors to not lose their masks. If you take it off, they lose their honor. As long as and so long as has very similar meanings, similar to the whole time, the entire time, or all of this time. This is the bat signal. This is how the police tell Batman that they need him. Whenever the police turn on the bat signal, Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. Bruce Wayne is Batman's real name. Whenever means every time this happens, this other thing happens. So every time, of course, is another subordinating conjunction that has the same meaning. So those are the time subordinators, or the time subordinating conjunctions. There are a lot of them. A couple of them have meanings that differ according to how they're used. The next type of adverb clause is the cause and effect. So the most common one would be because. Tom passed his test because he studied. He studied and he passed his test. Him studying made the other thing, passing his test, happen. It wouldn't have happened if he hadn't done this. Now that I've paid off my student loans, I can save more money toward my retirement. Student loans are what you get from a bank or the government, some money you get from the bank or the government, so you can go to college. Now that is like because, but because it has now in there, it has a bit of a time meaning. It means before this wasn't possible, but now it is. So I can save more money toward my retirement. Retirement is when you are done working, when you're older, and you don't have to work anymore. And you have to save money so that you can retire and not have to work anymore or rely on the government or charity or your family for money. Since you don't like me anymore, I won't hang out with you. Since has a similar meaning to because. Now remember, since also has a time meaning, but it is different than this cause and effect meaning. To tell the difference, think about the sentence, take out since, and put because there. If it still makes sense, then since has the cause and effect meaning, and not the time meaning. These are the only cause and effect subordinators, a lot fewer than the time subordinators. The next type of subordinating conjunction are subordinating conjunctions of contrast. Because werewolves are so dangerous, I don't go out during a full moon. This is not an adverb clause of contrast, and because doesn't have that meaning. This is cause and effect. It's something that makes sense. You don't go out during a full moon because there are werewolves. Werewolves are monsters that come out during a full moon. They're people who are normally normal people, but when the moon is full, that means when the moon is a big circle and it's not only part of a moon, called a crescent moon, or a half or more than a moon, called a gibbous moon. When it's a full moon, which happens once a month for a few days, you get werewolves, according to books and movies and things like that. So that makes sense. There's no contrast happening. Contrast means something different, not the same, or different from your expectations. Even though werewolves are so dangerous, I go out during the full moon. Even though is a subordinator of contrast. When we use that instead of because, it has a different meaning entirely. This means I go out during the full moon, even though werewolves are so dangerous. Now, in the first sentence, we said, I don't go out during the full moon. That makes sense. But in this one, we say, I do. I go out during the full moon. And I believe in werewolves. And I agree they're dangerous. But I do it anyway, even though. It doesn't really make sense. So it's a kind of contrast. These are werewolves. Joe is a werewolf, while Mary is a vampire. While Mary is a vampire, Joe is a werewolf. This is another type of contrast called direct contrast. In direct contrast, we have two statements that are totally the opposite of each other. So Joe is a werewolf and Mary is a vampire are two different ideas. They're not the same thing, so there's a direct contrast. You should note that unlike normal sentences that have adverb clauses, when you have one with direct contrast, using while, you use a comma no matter what. So in the first sentence, we still use a comma even though the adverb clause comes at the end. There is only one other time when you do this, but it's a rule that is so seldom used we won't discuss it. Also remember that while also has a time meaning. You can usually tell the difference because when it has a meaning of direct contrast, there is no progressive verb. Also, the meaning doesn't have a time kind of meaning. It's different. So the main contrast subordinators we talked about were even though and while. There are others, such as although, or just the word though, and I'm sure you can find many examples of that. It's used very often, such as the sentence, although I made a video about adverb clauses, I did not make a sentence with the word although. Next, adverb clauses of conditions. If you are bitten by a zombie, I won't let you become one. This type of sentence is usually called a conditional, with a conditional clause and a result clause. You know what a zombie is, and you know what happens when one bites you. So you don't want to become a zombie, so we don't want to let that happen. You may be bitten by a zombie. If so, I won't let you become one. This is another way of doing conditionals in two sentences instead of one. If not, everything will be fine. We don't need to say everything that we said in the original conditional because it's understood. We remember what was said, so we can just say if not, meaning the negative. Whether or not you win the game, you will always be my friend. This is a different type of conditional. It means that in both conditions, the result clause is true. If and not, doesn't matter. Whether you win the game or not, you will always be my friend, has the same meaning. The placement of or not doesn't matter. We can put it at the beginning there or at the end, though not other places. Even if we lose the Necronomicon, we can still stop Cthulhu from waking. Even if means that this condition does not matter. It's very much like whether or not. The Necronomicon is a book that has magic spells in it, and Cthulhu is a monster who wants to destroy the world. If you use the Necronomicon, you might be able to stop Cthulhu from waking up, but it can also be dangerous itself, so we can try to stop him without it. Here's my phone number in case you need my help. In case means that in this one condition, this is true. You could also say, here's my phone number if you need my help. But in case is often used with this type of sentence. Don't call me unless you really need me. This means this is the only condition when you can do this action. Don't call me in other conditions. And remember, call me only if you need my help. Very similar to the other sentences in meaning. These are the subordinating conjunctions for conditions. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.